All right, Sarah Paulson. I just want to start off by saying that American Horror Story, the franchise as a whole, it's completely changed television. A lot of people consider your show to be the catalyst for all of these new great miniseries and anthology series we're getting, like Fargo and True Detective. When you see all of those shows sprouting up, does part of you kind of think that's because of us?
Well, I don't think it's because of us, like me and the other actors. I think it's because of Ryan Murphy, really. I mean, it was sort of he spearheaded that whole idea. Not that it hadn't been done before, but the whole thing that American Horror Story is using the same repertory of company of actors and getting to play different parts and having a limited thing, and every year it becomes a different thing. And the miniseries um, piece of it all is just it's just to me the most exciting way to work, and I think it's opened up an enormous opportunity for actors, writers, directors, everybody to kind of have like the greatest gig in the world, which is to do something that's finite, and you can tell a complete story, and you don't have to be committed for your whole life. You can do a play, you can do a movie, you can not work if that's what you want to do, if your family actually calls to you in a way that some people's families do. um, I don't know. I think it's just an incredibly exciting time in television to me. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, just saying I can't imagine any place I'd rather be, any medium I'd rather medium, whatever I'd rather be working in than television, just because the greatest roles and this new way of working is very exciting.
It is the golden age of TV. You hear that a lot, and that's part of the reason is because of your show and Ryan Murphy's vision.
Yeah.
I think like from an acting standpoint, it must be just so rewarding to create a new character every year. You get to know that character inside and out, and then at the end of the season, you just say goodbye and then move on. Is that rewarding for you guys as actors?
I mean, I think it's the most glorious part of this whole thing is that, nothing could, there's so little opportunity in this business, I think, for any kind of security. I mean, it's very rare to land. It's like lightning in a bottle if you land on a show that lasts for 7 years and, you're able to buy a house and really, have a confidence of employment that you can go to work and then you've got 3 months off to kind of live your life and then go back to work if that's, if you're lucky enough to have that opportunity. But now, because of the way everything is kind of shifted in these 10 episodes, these 13 episodes, these 6 episodes, 7 episodes, whatever they are, this new way of telling a story, I just feel like from an acting standpoint, at least certainly on American Horror Story in particular, because we get to keep going back and trying something different and trying something new. From an acting standpoint, it's the best job in town, I think, because just every year, and some years I'm more, at least for me anyway, more attached to some characters I've played on the series and less to others, and the excitement of thinking what's next and what's he going to throw at me this time and will I be able to pull it off? And I don't know, it's just very exciting. It's a very exciting way to work, I think. And
Hmm.
you'll never get bored, and hopefully the audience doesn't get bored if they don't like that character so much this year, then hopefully next year they'll like what you get to do if you're asked
Right.
back, you know. So I think it's pretty exciting.
In season one, you were just kind of a guest star popping in and out, but then season two, Asylum, you were really, arguably, like the co-lead with Jessica Lange. Would tragic be a good word to describe Lana Winters because nothing seemed to go right for her at all?
Yeah, nothing seemed to go right for her. To me, she was a tragic heroine, really. I mean, because, and to me, she was, I don't know, this sounds so hokey and actressy, but I learned so much about being a human being playing her because she just never gave up. And I mean, talk about being put in the most extreme circumstances one could possibly imagine and
Hmm.
continuing to survive and her triumph of spirit and her street smarts, her survival skills, her ability to manipulate her, it was just a real it was just a very powerful character, and I feel to this day it is, and I can't imagine anything. I mean, I hope in my life that I get to do other things that I have loved doing as much, but that was one of the great. Ryan Murphy's given me many gifts. It was probably the greatest thus far, to be able to play the character, and again to do it in a beginning and a middle and an end way that I didn't have to kind of, I say didn't have to, but I didn't, if you stretch the story of Lana Winters over 7 years, I don't know if it would have had the same impact. And I don't know if you could sustain something like that kind of torture and that kind of if we actually watched for 7 years her story, and by the end of the 7 years, she was an 80-year-old woman, that might have had a different impact on the audience than it. to have it happen in 13 episodes. It all happened so fast and furiously, and you know, that it was just one of the greatest acting jobs I've ever had in my life. And it was hard. It was hard to do because it was hard to sort of to sit in that place of being victimized and trying to find internal strength. But, you know, when you're doing that 1-2 minute scene on camera, it may have taken 8 hours to film. And to sustain a certain level of terror or emotional exhaustion or in the middle of that kind of thing, it's not the easiest thing to do. And your body and your mind, they don't always know. Mentally, you know that you're pretending, but physically you have to kind of get yourself into a state, and you know, that's not an easy thing to suspend yourself in a place to, yeah.
A lot of people think that Asylum was just one of the great TV events of all time from beginning to end. You agree?
I do, because, you know, I feel like it was really about something, you know, that period in our country's history and what happens to those that don't have voices or whose voices are silenced. And I mean, certainly something that people can relate to today for various reasons. And always in your life, you can be confronted with things that make you feel powerless and that you have no recourse. But at the same time, you know, I don't know. I feel like to have that show take place in the time period that it did, to have a character like Sister Jude, to have Alana Winters, to have a Kit Walker, to have a Sister Mary Eunice. I mean, to have all of them, it was everybody had. I don't know. It was just it really felt like it was about something, and I felt very, very, very proud of that season, enormously so.
And
so
then
I agree. I concur with everyone who thinks it's the greatest event in the world, because I happen to agree.
And then this season in Coven, which I loved Coven.
Yeah.
And the ratings for FX kept going higher and higher. People were finding the show more and more and more. And you played a witch that gets blinded early on in the season. Tell us a little bit about the makeup process, because it looked so believable. You must have been in that makeup chair for hours.
I was in the makeup chair for hours. You know, it started out, it kind of, in typical Ryan Murphy fashion, it came out, it started with a bang. I got acid in the face. So we did all the kind of burn, curdling skin makeup. I lost my voice from all the screaming, which a lot of people like to talk about my scream on this show, and I wish I could say it was planned, but it's just the noise that comes out of me when I'm scared. Is this horrifying animal being tortured noise that comes out of me. So it was, you know, that was a lot of time in the makeup chair. The harder part was once I had to be blind from it, and I had to wear these crazy contacts. And at first I thought, blind me for real, because it will make it easier for me to really know what that's like to have no ability to see. And then it became very clear that I couldn't make my way to the bathroom by myself. And so they had to make a different set of contacts where I could actually see. And it was a very bizarre thing, actually, what happens when you take away one of your senses, that your other senses become very, very sharp. And so even though I couldn't see anything those first few episodes where I had lost my sight, before we figured out a way to have contacts where I could see more, I could hear I could hear somebody wrinkling or opening a piece of candy over by craft service that was like a soundstage away. It was bizarre.
Wow.
Because and your senses, and I'm sure that, like, it's just a survival thing. It's a way to kind of make sure that if you lose one thing, you can still make it through the woods, I guess.
I thought a few months ago at the Paley Festival, you guys all kind of reunited on stage, and you mentioned something about how you were really proud that your character became the ultimate supreme. Do you know if Ryan Murphy was going that way the whole time, or did you know that you were going to be the supreme?
I didn't know. I think what Ryan did know he wanted, I think this story to be about the real core of it, the heart of it, was a story about mothers and daughters and sisterhood in general, which is a theme I think that really courses through a lot of what Ryan does, which I think is so incredible, being that he is a male human and not a female. But that's really, those are the stories that are most interesting to me. I mean, at least on our show. And so yeah, I mean, I think they knew it was heading there. I don't think they knew exactly how they were going to arrive. And if Ryan did know, which I sort of always imagine Ryan is like the great and powerful Oz, that he knows everything, whether he's telling me that he does or he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know the thing he kept saying is, this is a story about mothers and daughters, and all the different forms in which that comes. I mean, I had that with Myrtle, with Frances Conroy's character as well, and, you know, Cordelia was a mother figure to all the girls. It was all the different ways that mothers and daughters and all of what they can be to each other in different forms. So I didn't know fully that I was going to become the Supreme, but that was a very exciting day for me. When I got that call, when he called me, I had to pull over because he told me basically the entire final episode and all that was going to happen and what I was going to get to do, and I was very excited.
It felt
But I
kind
want
of,
to be the Supreme. I mean, everybody wants to be the Supreme. You want to be
yeah.
the Supreme, don't you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Too
And
bad.
it felt you are. It felt a little bit like a reality show at the end. Like one of these people is going to be the winner, and
Yeah,
you won.
we kept feeling like it was the Hunger Games. The last episode was
Yeah.
the Hunger Games, and it was like Cordelia is Katniss, and nobody knew it. I just love the reason I said that at Paley Fest about loving it is that I just love the idea that Cordelia was the underdog. She was the one that kind of you didn't expect to come out on top, and you certainly didn't expect Fiona to let her become that powerful. And in order for Cordelia to become that powerful, her mother did have to die. It was like the ultimate selfless act, if Fiona's capable of any kind of selfless act, was to die in my arms the way that she did. And all of her power went into me, and then I was able to protect the Coven. So, you know, my mother finally did right by her child. It took her a long time.
Oh yeah. And this year at the Emmys, you're actually jumping up from the supporting actress race to lead actress.
Yeah,
We all think that's a really smart idea
you do.
because there's actually a bloodbath in the supporting actress category this year. There's so many people from your show, and then Julia Roberts from The Normal Heart,
No,
um, and it's just. But now that you're going lead, you're going to be facing off against Jessica Lange. What's that going to be like?
listen, I faced off with Jessica Lange the first time I was nominated for an Emmy when I was nominated for Game Change, and she was nominated for the first season of American.
Oh, that's right.
I've been there before. I've lost before to her. I can handle losing to her again. To me, the honor of even being considered in the same breath as her is something I still can't kind of wrap my brain around. I've said before, and I'll say it again. She was the reason I wanted to be an actress. She was the actress I most admired. She's the actress whose work sort of speaks to me the most, and always did when I was younger and decided I wanted to be an actress. So the idea that it's even something that's a part of the conversation is something that almost makes the top of my head like have to kind of blow off, and I fly a little bit above my body just thinking that that's even a conversation that anyone's having. So, and that no one's laughing, going, "What are you nuts?" Way. So,
We have a fan question from Macbeth.
ooh,
He says, I feel very often, especially with Coven, that AHS is a homage to various genres of films of the past. Do you ever channel anyone or any role when performing in the show?
that's a very interesting question. I don't consciously, but I'm sure in some subterranean level, things I have seen in the past. All great actors, I think, try to steal from greater actors, and so even though I've never consciously tried to do that, nor do I consider myself a great actor. I don't mean like all the greats like me. I just mean I do think you have, if you're a viewer, a real consumer of film and television and plays and great acting, the really good stuff kind of seeps in, and I think you're liable to kind of some of that stuff's liable to come out. But certainly with the second season of Horror Story, there was a lot of the shots, particularly with Alfonso Gomez Rion, who directed a lot of them, both last season and the season before. He really has a very specific style, and some things are from very specific movies and shots that are really designed to evoke that kind of thing. And there's a lot of Hitchcockian references, I think, in Asylum. You know, for example, when Thredson and Lana are walking by each other on the staircase right before Lana escapes, and it was a split screen of me walking down and Thredson walking up, and that was all an homage to Hitchcock. So all that stuff is quite purposeful and not by mistake. But yeah.
And then Jack Ferry wants to know, aside from the new season Freak Show, which project are you most excited to share with everyone?
Well, I just finished a movie with Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara that Todd Haynes directed called Carol, based on the Patricia Highsmith novel of the same name. It's also called The Price of Salt, the novel, but some publications have it as Carol. And that was not a bad day at the office to go to work and work with Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara, and to have, Todd Haynes tell me where to stand and what to do. It was pretty exciting. And she had just won the Academy Award, and I had just been to the Oscars for the first time because of 12 Years a Slave. So it was a heady time and very exciting. We just finished that. I finished that about a month ago, and
Nice.
so yeah.
And you're doing a play now in the Hamptons, right?
I am. I'm doing a play in the Hamptons. I'm in Sag Harbor. It's basically just an excuse to be at the beach while acting. I like to act no matter where I am, if someone will let me.
And congratulations! Last year you won the Critics' Choice TV Award along with your buddy Zachary Quinto. You guys both won. What was it like to win, together?
I can really tell you honestly, that was the first award I've ever won in my entire life. I mean, I've never won a bake sale. I've never won like a high school, I don't know, drawing contest. I don't know what I'm talking about, but like I've just never won anything ever. And I have that Critics' Choice Award on my bureau in my bedroom, so I see it every day when I wake up. Maybe someday I'll graduate to feeling like I can put it somewhere where I don't see it every day. But it was a very exciting night for me because I'd never won anything, and I loved that character so much. And then it made it doubly exciting that Zach won first. So when he got up there, he said very beautiful things to me. And then when I got up there, he was off in the press room somewhere, and I was trying to find him to say something out loud, and he clearly didn't care. He was in the back talking to people. But it was the two of us really felt like we are very good friends in life outside of work, but to be able to do that stuff together, we've both said it to each other, and we've said it publicly too. I don't think we would have been able to go quite where we went if we didn't have the kind of relationship that we have outside of work, because there was such a trust and such a faith that the other one, there was a very wide net under both of us, and that either one of us was going to catch the other one, and it was a very, very safe place to work. And I do think that's why I'm as proud of my, lots of times I see things that I do and I'm like, oh my God, you're terrible. But that was one of those, times where I felt like I could be proud of what I had done. And I credit Ryan with that, and with Zachary as well, and with Jessica too, the people I shared most of my stuff with.
You were in 12 Years a Slave, which won Best Picture at the Oscars. And then a year before that, you were in Game Change, which won Best Movie at the Emmys. What's the biggest difference between campaigning for Oscars and Emmys? Is there a difference?
I don't know that there is. And I wasn't campaigning individually for 12 Years a Slave. I was just there to support the movie and Lupita and Steve McQueen and the film itself. So, and Michael Fassbender and Chiwetel, all of them. So this feels a little different. My television life I feel very lucky that I've been singled out on a couple of occasions for my work on television, which has always really been my home. It's really, from the moment I started acting, it was always the first place that I was my way of making a living was on television. And now everybody wants to work on television, and I feel very honored that I'm even able to make a living doing it at something I love, and to work with the people I get to work with, and that anyone ever looks at me and is like, oh, I think I'll nominate you for your acting. Thumbs up on the acting. The little kid in me doesn't, I don't think it's something, it's hard to talk about because it feels a little embarrassing, because there's a little tiny person in me that can't even believe that's a part of my world. So.
Mm-hmm. And last question, I don't know if you can answer it, but do you know anything about Freak Show yet that you can share with us?
Oh, I know lots. Nothing I can tell you. I do know a lot of things, and I can only say that I really think people are not going to be disappointed, and it's going to be very different, I think, than last year, but in all the best ways. And that's the great thing about the show, is that every year it gets to be something entirely different, and nobody's attached to kind of it being what it was last year, because I think everybody's on board now. We all know that with Horror Story, every year it's something different, and now people crave it. Whereas I think between Murder House and Asylum, people didn't really know, they didn't want to say goodbye to those characters that they kind of fallen in love with, and then it took them a minute to get into Asylum, and Asylum was quite dark, and then I think once Coven came around, people were on board, they knew what it was, and they were excited for the new story. And so I think that's how I hope people feel about Freak Show. And boy, is it not going to disappoint.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck at the Emmys.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
Bye.
Have a great day.
You too.